Parallels, déjà vu, or history spirals. In a time of Russian war against Ukraine, in a time of fight for freedom in USA, I'd like to share my thoughts and memories from my past life. I know how important are history lessons, and I hope my story will help to understand how dangerous is the idea of communist socialist dictatorship in modern times. I was born in Ukraine, in the beautiful and ancient city of Lviv, old names Leopolis or Lemberg, founded by Ukrainian King Daniel in the 12th century. The western part of Ukraine has a very patriotic and independent spirit. Independent because of the tragic experiences of being conquered by the Austrian, Hungarian, Russian, and Polish empires. Our land was soaked in blood after battling with the Mongolo-Tatarians, Russian slavery, Stalin's Bolsheviks, and Hitler's Nazi occupation. Since 1939, we have been oppressed by a Soviet communist regime. Through all this, we have learned how to survive and how to fight the enemy in different ways. Open opposition in those times resulted in a straight path to the Gulag and jail, or to an obligatory treatment at a special psychiatrist clinic, as they converted prominent, brave dissidents into vegetables. So many good and intelligent people had to balance between open protest and silent partisan-style resistance. It was very important to save their life. After my official and legal immigration to America as a political refugee in 2003, I would never, ever imagine I would have the terrifying feeling of déjà vu that I'm experiencing today in the United States. Yes, as a very proud citizen of the United States, the most incredible and free country in the world, I feel like I'm back to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, CCCP, during the worst times of the Cold War, featuring bloody genocide of their own citizens. Allow me to show you a few examples to understand what I'm talking about. As you know, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union was the only party in that country. Propaganda was assuring us that only communists are normal and perfect, good people. Everybody else is simply not developed enough to have a red ID with a hammer and sickle symbol and a Lenin's picture. Well, this sounds very, very familiar, right? Especially today. Democrats, liberals, progressives, acting like a very privileged and high-level caste. But all the rest of us are deplorable individuals. For those who wanted to have a career and work as a teacher, professor in university, factory director, any higher position, etc., CCCP Communist Party membership was the only option to be promoted, and you had to work according to their Soviet education. I once, it's a memory, I once said something against the forced use of the Russian language over my own Ukrainian language in my school. I was just a kid. My father, a medical doctor, prominent surgeon, was interviewed by party leader immediately the same day. He was cordially advised to reconsider a previous offer to join the Communist Party, which he refused a few times already before, and change his parental influence toward his daughter, me. Otherwise, his name would be brought to the attention of special authorities. The same day, my dad had a very intimate conversation with me in our small kitchen. I still remember the day. He did not forget to open a faucet, so the sound of running water would muffle our conversation. That day, I learned how to live with the dual mentality, what to say in public places like school, and what to keep for myself and to my family. How to read the Soviet newspaper and not believe their propaganda. How to be the smartest A+ student in my class and not reveal my real knowledge and beliefs. How to pretend to be just like everyone else in my class, but hold on to my individuality. I did this to camouflage myself in school and in the public in order to prevent my family from being reprimanded, arrested, or even worse. It was happening. I was 11 years old then, at that day. And many years after that day, I learned that on the same day they had spoken with my father, the local KGB opened a case file on me. My parents were on the blacklist for a long time, but now I was privileged to have the KGB's personal attention. By the way, because of my family history, I was denied at that time at a medical university. They just cut my dream. Sound familiar, right? What do you see these days in our schools and colleges? Anyone who is not supporting leftist ideology and propaganda, or God forbid, have the guts to openly support President Trump, will be bullied, punished, fired, or shamed. In the Soviet Union, they were telling us about equal rights, about the bright future of communism, and about the importance of following the line of Marxism, Leninism in every step to build the new world, how they were telling us. All of that was a brutal lie. Equality? No, only communists could enjoy special privileges of the regime, and only high-end communist leaders lived in their special communist paradise already, consisting of a free home, free summer cottages, free cars with chauffeur, and free vacation, symbolic prices for high-quality food, and goods delivered to their door by servants. Priorities in education, career, healthcare. Yes, they had special hospitals and luxury resorts, complete with special care for all family members. They enjoyed special VIP services, carefully hidden from plebs and simple people, whose only privilege was cheap vodka and long lines at a food store to get basic food. This is my memory from my childhood. And my equality story is when I had to take my 4-year-old son to stand in long line outside the food store because it was so long line in minus 20 Celsius weather to get an extra pound of butter because one person equal 1 pound was the rule then. My baby was quiet and patient, feeling as a little man helping his mom to feed the family of 6. He was not even crying or demanding something, just staying and waiting. He knew he has to do it. There was nothing remotely equal for the millions of Ukrainians in East Ukraine dying from hunger and committing even cannibalism during a terrible famine in 1932-33. We call it Holodomor, death from hunger. But this famine was not caused by lack of food. It was caused by special Soviet troops who were sent to every village and every household to expropriate all food and goods for the Soviet system of needs. Moscow's communists were enjoying caviar, exotic fruits, and delicacies at that time. But 11 million hard-working Ukrainians were dying complete with pain and suffering. They were buried in mass graves like deceased cattle. You have to watch a Mr. Jones movie of Bitter Harvest. You will learn. It's, I believe, on Netflix. Again, a very familiar situation. Our famous leaders of BLM claim to be trained Marxists while using their donors' money to buy luxury mansions in predominantly white neighborhoods. Our brilliant global warming supporters asking us to save the planet and use less gas fueled cars, which is fine, but all while flying on their private jets, owning collections of expensive gas-powered cars and yachts. Our own Governor Kurt Brown in Oregon, obsessed with selling Oregon out to communist China while making a hidden fortune on dirty transactions and criminal business. Our mass media spreading liberal lies, brainwashing society with false leftist propaganda. But fact checkers, they checking us as they silence President of the United States only because he's telling the truth. And 100 million people are listening to him. Interesting. My dad was listening to Voice of America every Saturday night, covering his old transistor radio with a blanket to ensure the neighbors could not hear. We lived in an apartment. So radio signal was often jammed and interfered with by the KGB. Plenty of static interference, but every Sunday morning, Dad would whisper to us, having breakfast, some news average people had no idea about. I felt so proud of myself and thankful to my dad for sharing. Because of this, I knew and understood much more than other kids. That knowledge stimulated my brain to think, analyze, and build that invisible shield to protect me from becoming part of a primitive, speechless, and blindfolded majority. At least I kept my eyes open all the time. Aren't we in the same situation today? To learn what's really going on, we have to be innovative and smart. We have to put millions of puzzle pieces from different sources together, manage to read between the lines, determine which sources are trustworthy, and be aware of our local KGB-like organizations. Right. They think they have the right to tell us their side of a story, their truth, their fake facts and news while cutting us off from reality. Because they think we are not good enough to see the difference between the real White House, for example, and the movie studio fake one, which they don't even hide. Between recognizing the real Air Force One and a fake one, we see it many times. Between witnessing a real inauguration and staging a fake one. Between the real president of our nation and the fake one, which we have right now. Between the real smell of freedom and the nasty odor of subjugation. When I listen to our new socialist, communist, Marxist leaders, the first thought is, come on, guys, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what socialism or communism is. All you've learned from propaganda books is only a personal opinion and your poisoned illusion. As they talk about sending Trump supporters to reprogramming camps or vowing to eradicate Trump forces in Oregon, direct quote from my governor, Kate Brown, just for you to know. My counteroffer is, if you want to taste your dreamy socialism, then spend at least a month in Venezuela or Cuba or other countries, and not as an American citizen and American tourist, of course. I guarantee you will return as a different person if you survive. You will kiss American soil in the airport and shut up forever about anything less than freedom and liberty. I was trying to find a word to describe the condition we are living in now. The best description that came to my mind was political racism. Yes, we must stand up and let them know we are not a lower caste or the deplorables title they label us with. We are the patriots, we are the leaders, we are the fighters, we are Americans, and we do know how to fix our America. and make it great again. And we must do it, absolutely. You probably listen to me and want to ask me, why do I talk about parallels of a history and why I'm talking about all this? Yes, I'm not a politician, I'm not a professional journalist, but I'm writing, I'm publishing things. Yes, I do have a passion to write. I published an educational book titled Your Style back in Ukraine in 2004. This book was based on my experience working as an art director and fashion designer in my model studio. I'm an artist by education, my master's degree in arts. Other written works that I'm rather proud of is my pretty salty article published in the Ukrainian newspaper, I believe it was 2000. I was exposing the anti-Ukrainian image of our pro-communist president then and his oligarchs surrounding. That article miraculously missed censorship. I still don't know how it happened. It was my lucky day. I titled it Fashion in Politics and made me famous with my article in circle of my friends, but infamous within officials. It also became a trigger for that next great adventure, which brought me to America. Interesting life. Following my article, I received a number of disturbing and threatening phone calls and other type of warning and messages. I started to feel obvious pressure on my little business. I knew it's time for change. It was like last drop, in my patience. I speak 4 languages by myself and I understand a few more, but I've never considered myself as a perfect speaker of English. I understand that sometimes my word usage is a little different and sometimes my accent can make some things I say a little difficult at times. So thank you for bearing with me. As a naturalized American citizen, I see my second motherland, United States of America, in a totally different way than people born and raised here, because I see things you've never noticed. And I feel determined to express my feelings about the strange things happening within our country these days. Because I still remember almost forgotten memories from my childhood. Stories told by my parents, grandparents, and random people who witnessed years of a communist regime. Going to my art academy every morning, I passed the old jail building in my city, where thousands of people were brutally murdered by the Soviets. This devastating massacre happened during the Nazi invasion in June 1941, where the floor of the same building was filled with blood and dead bodies. It was a NKVD, it's a KGB version, vendetta for our city's resistance against the regime. Later, the Nazi Gestapo tortured our patriots on the same floor in the same building. It's been spoken that the blood was ankle deep. The Soviets felt the opposition by local citizens and thus this extermination of Jews, Polish, Ukrainian people, and other locals. When the Germans arrived, they offered to free the Ukrainian people of Soviet communism, which was welcomed, of course. However, that relief would be the same genocide offered by the Soviets. Ukraine had 2 enemies in World War II, the Soviets and the Nazis. It was double fight. And look what's going on today. Now we still have the same enemies, Soviet fascists, Putin's army of brainwashed Russians, Nazis, who doesn't want Ukraine to exist and who wants to kill the whole Ukrainian nation and burn our land. They simply believe in great Russian spirit, kind of, which is supposed to conquer the whole world. But first, they want to renovate the new USSR, new slavery system. new regime. And they simply cannot do it without having Ukraine as a breadbasket and the source of great natural resources to use. They are trying to rewrite the history, lying about everything, starting from the times when Ukraine was established as a country. By the way, if you don't know, at that time, Russia even did not exist. Food for your thoughts. History can repeat itself if you do not remember it. This painful history is a very real thing for me, and I do not wish it to be repeated on anyone. It is my hope that my stories will help open the eyes of some of my fellow Americans, which will be a reward unto itself. Most people enjoy futuristic science fiction, but imagine how different the past could be through a different lens. Imagine how our planet Earth would look if we had made a better effort to stop evil when we could. Just difficult to imagine, it can be quite interesting to fantasize about what the past could have been, right? Close your eyes and imagine how our planet Earth would look without the genocide caused by Lenin, Stalin, Hitler, and Mao. And today, we need to add one more name to this bloody list, Putin. We call him Putler, by the way. The biggest mass murderer and terrorist of 21st century. And he's creating a brutal genocide in Ukraine for the last 4 months. If we only were able to recognize those dictators and eliminate them, all that war effort and energy, then applied to the development of mankind with a variety of cultures and unfiled humanity. This is a world I want to experience here in America and abroad. When I was a teenager, I was taught every day in school, doesn't matter what classes we had, such as USSR history, literature, grammar, English language, or biology class, that our bright, shining future was on the horizon. With a little struggle today, as we follow our smart leaders of the best and only party, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, we will witness the miracle of communism. We were told to express our greatest appreciation to the Communist Party every day of our lives, because all we had and all we achieved was a product of the tremendous care and big heart of the Communist Party. It was as the Communist Party was its own living organism. Sometimes I was tempted to draw that mysterious image of the party as my artistic view. But my imagination envisioned it as a huge spider-looking creature, the size of a prehistoric dinosaur. But one day I saw a Godzilla movie, remember, and it hit me. This is it. This is a perfect example of the Communist Party, a great, big, huge, giant, scary creature, destroying everything and everyone in its path with a stomp of his foot, swing of its tail, of fiery breath. As children, we would secretly share a short joke in poetry form, but you have to do it secretly. Spring just passed, summer just arrived, so we need to thank the party for all that. Irony is obvious. As I was telling you in my first part, our socialist leaders did not want to build a new happy life for us, but they were very good in camouflaging their ideas in favor of fooling simple people. Fellow Americans, take warning, please. Watch what they do. Don't listen to what they say. In 1986, when Chernobyl nuclear explosion happened, they did not announce the emergency situation in Ukraine. Decision was in Moscow, of course. They deliberately hid all information about the dangerous radiation invisible and sneaky killer. They insisted on having a yearly May 1st parade in Kyiv, 1 week after the disaster, and thousands of students, workers, families with kids were exposed to radiation dust. But communist cream of society, families were standing in line in the airport the day after the explosion to fly on private jets to safe areas, mostly abroad. Thousands of abortions were performed in the next few months at the insistent direction of the Soviets. Hospitals were overwhelmed with dying Ukrainians. And even now that people of Ukraine suffer from different side effects, including leukemia, various cancers, and autoimmune disorders, only because of the negligence and total ignorance of our supposedly good and caring party fathers. Now, what we see around the globe, world experiencing a Chernobyl #2, Chinese Chernobyl, how it was called. The problem is not impossibility of terrible accident, virus leak from high-level facility, or high-level security medical lab. Things happen, unfortunately, but problem is in deliberate lie and hiding real information from whole world, which is a crime against humanity. But Communist Party of China knows how it works. They had good teachers from CCCP. So who cares about millions of victims in biological war? I just hope we are going to have a new Nuremberg judgment about all this mess. As I mentioned before, I have a problem understanding how and why the ghost of communism is rising from a stinky grave and now invades our life in America, in the United States of America. It's unbelievable. We were taught in school back when I grew up that capitalism, imperialism is a very bad anti-humanistic system, that people under capitalism live on the streets and the entire system is rotten and decomposed. But some brave people were asking sarcastically, well, rotten, huh? But why does it smell so damn good? North Korea was quite detailed on what capitalism in America was like. There is a famous YouTube video, probably you watch it, from North Korea, where they show poor Americans eating dead frozen sparrows from the street and melting the snow to drink. This is perfect image of how propaganda works. The last thing they or the Soviets would ever do is show America and capitalism for what they truly are. If so, then they would face a tremendous backlash from the people demanding their own sovereignty, freedom, and liberty. Communism could not allow that. So another parallel between leftist propaganda. If socialism is so good, why would not they allow us to travel to see the rotten face of capitalism, how they call it? Let us see the difference, and then it would not be necessary to be told how beautiful socialism was. People gonna see. So, but even traveling to see my dying uncle in Poland, 100-mile trip, was an exhausting process and experience for me in my student years. I felt like an enemy of the state, going through many appointments in different organizations and was screened like a spy. I was oppressed with humiliating questions about, do I really need to travel to Poland? What cities was I planning to visit? And who was I planning to see? My family. Thank God they did not know I spoke Polish pretty well, as my interrogation by local young communist committee, it was another organization we hate, would have been much worse. What was interesting, despite being one of the socialist countries, as we called socialist camp of countries. Because Soviets simply kept it under their control, Polish people were keeping some leftovers from pre-socialism times, such as private property and small private businesses, and a few more. The difference I've noticed between service in our state-owned food stores and Polish little bakeries and boutiques were shocking. That little touch of capitalism was enough to understand why socialism was not working, and it never will. Now for the American parallel. Look how our winning party from the 2020 election behaves at the mere thought of any election audit. If they are so confident of their fair and transparent win, then they should welcome an audit to put it to rest. Normal reaction, right? Surely the proof would reinforce their win and prove their opposition was wrong. The truth is on the surface, and the Chechen side is simply afraid of being exposed for the fraud they are, like communists and communism. The Nazis' propaganda of Goebbels was the same. I think I can quote it almost. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it over and over, people will eventually come to believe in it. Or are we now all aligned with only one right party, which is opposite of what is right for freedom and liberty? No, thank you. No more one-party rule for me. I've had enough of Soviet-style everything in my previous life and refuse to give up my liberty and freedom ever. Regarding the double standards in immigration, and I'm not even talking about the total wrong action of letting thousands of illegals and criminals with borrowed children and various disease into America. I'm talking about them being cordially invited to America through the dirty back door. Why? Who is better for America? Those who illegally enter the country to get free handouts and offer nothing to America except to bad election numbers? I call it cheap war meat. This is how they use those people. Or those who legally enter America, respect the process and privilege of becoming an American, and who contribute to our society. The situation of illegal immigration is beyond belief for me. You know why? I feel discriminated against now. As I remember my personal experience and during the long process of legal immigration, starting with my 5 years waiting period in a legal status already, endless screening and interviews, multiple fingerprinting, checking my family and health history, like I'm applying for work in the Secret Service. Yeah, it's more clear what America needs and doesn't need. It needs contributing, hardworking, and law-obedient citizens. It's a simple formula of success. All of this coalesced into that final defining moment when me and my son took the oath and sang the American national anthem for the first time as a proud American. This moment was overwhelming for me. It was surreal and very, very emotional. Another parallel, do you know what our communist mentors called a family? I still remember, it was in all books. They said the Soviet family is an ideological cell of our Soviet society. What they were doing was indoctrinating our kids with communist propaganda using ideology to rule the family life. Kids were encouraged to report their parents' ideologically inappropriate behavior. This is what we see in our schools in America now. This is the way children are morally separated from their parents. The fact that educators hide abortions, transgender propaganda, and other inappropriate sexual indoctrination from parents is a violation of parental rights. And this is openly a child abuse. This method is simply sick and disgusting. School is about science, language, literature, math, history, etc. So please leave the moral and family values to parents. Sexopathology is not for public education. It is, however, for various fields of study in the college. You can wrap socialist ideas in colorful paper, spray with expensive perfume, and try to sell it with a special bonus. Some may buy it, but once they experience it, and despite the marketing tricks and non-stop marketing, they will beg or fight to get what was lost. Their freedom and liberty, of course. I'll share a perfect example of how that process of selling the communist idea worked for one man. It's a real story, very exciting. I will make it short. Yuri Vitokhin, Soviet cyber engineer and inventor, a brilliant young man who was struggling with an absolute refusal to live in a Soviet Union regime. He dreamt of a free life in a free country of the United States. So he decided to escape his beautiful Soviet motherland. Because of his job, he was persona non grata for any tourist visa, even to socialist foreign countries such as Poland or Bulgaria. The Soviets were protecting their secrets, like they do it right now. Yuri was a super talented swimmer, and his physical condition was good enough to cover a long distance in the sea. So he decided to find a way to cross the Black Sea from Crimea to Turkey. His first attempt in the 60s was not successful, but after a long KGB investigation, he was set free because of his good acting skills and hiding the evidence of his plan for escape. His second attempt ended very badly. He was caught by a Soviet border patrol boat, and the KGB put him in jail. They then announced him as an enemy of the state and person with a dangerous mental disorder. He was then sent to a special jail-like psychiatric hospital for 9 long years, 9. He wrote a book about this medical facility. All you need to know about fascist concentration camps, which famous, with various medical experiments, including brutal treatments with heavy, very heavy toxic injections, is what really happened there. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a 5-star resort compared to this type of hospital. That brave man was an inch away from being brain dead, and his health was damaged heavily. But do you know why the KGB ruled that kind of diagnosis for Yuri? It's funny, but it's really scary, because only a mentally disabled person would want to live our beautiful, bright, heavenly communist country for the hell of the capitalistic United States of America. Yes, this is what they told him. I think it was written in his file. Mixing medicine with politics, how useful and how disgusting, a true crime against humanity. This amazing man healed his body and spirit. His third attempt was miraculously successful. In 1979, he was able to buy a ticket on a Soviet cruise ship from Vladivostok, which was destined for Vladivostok port. There were no port calls in any foreign ports. He was to ride to the equator and back. The Soviet system was so sure their regime was the best, but better to be safe than sorry, right? Why create the temptation of seeing rotten capitalism, bad smelling, even in Fiji or Malaysia, right? So Yuri jumped into a dark ocean when the ship was passing an Indonesian island. He swam for more than 20 hours in deep shark-infested waters. He finally reached the island and was greeted by locals, aborigines, like a hero. He was granted refugee status by US authorities later. Yuri is over 90 years old, and I believe he's still alive. And he lives in San Diego, California. A truly amazing story, right? I really like that politically infused medical diagnosis given to Yuri, but I'll use in my own interpretation. Only a mentally ill individual would think about changing the USA, the best country in the world, into a hell of communism. This is my statement. Open your eyes, use your brain, read good books, do some research, learn how to analyze, learn how to recognize the lie and how to find the truth. Be a citizen, be a patriot. Our country is in danger. It's time to protect this beautiful free land for all of us and for our children.